And we're back. This week we have another comic from Jack Kent. You remember Jack. He's a friend of this channel and he's also the creator of Sketchy People that we've talked about on this channel before. But this time he's hatched up a new comic. And there's a lot of comic events going on around Portland this weekend that you're not going to want to miss. So without further ado, let's talk comics. Let's try that again. Gulls is about a flock of seagulls and a rock and roll band, which is a lot less weird than it sounds when you read it. Now, this is a daily comic that Jack has had going on for years, but most recently, he published a book with a ton of them in it. These comics are packed to the beak with bird puns, and they also cover some autobiographical, serious stuff without ruffling too many feathers. This comic is such a joy to read. I follow it on Instagram, and basically every day when one is published, it makes me laugh. Right now, I love the storyline about Zane and his pink mohawk. It's my favorite. It reminds me a lot of dyeing my hair dumb colors as a youth. Not only is it an awesome and hilarious book, but there is music to accompany it on a vinyl record. That's right, by the birds themselves. Kind of. It's Jack Kent on lead vocals and guitar and some of his friends who are in other bands that he got together to create music that the Gulls would have made themselves, which is just so darn cool. And don't think of this as some punk DIY stuff in your neighbor's garage, which is fine enough. This is some stuff that you're definitely gonna want to get your auriculars on. That's what bird ears are called. I really wanted to make bird puns for this, but I had to Google it and I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. And that's all to say that my bird puns suck, but Jack's are great, so you should listen to him talk about this really cool project.
One thing matters right now is to gulp down all of this free chow. I would elbow my dad and shove my mom in the back if I could just get that free snack, 'cause it's 1, 2, 3, 4, go.
Yeah, the comic started about 12 years ago, and I've always had a music background and a comic background, and it just made sense that one day these two entities are going to collide. And so doing years of comic strips, doing a webcomic, the music was going. I'd be kind of like writing for the flock to be in certain band scenarios that I myself was in, so it's very autobiographical. And didn't come too much later that I go, why don't I put together a real band to represent the band in the comic? And I did an album about 4 years ago, and then now we're on the heels of the release of the brand new album, and it's a really cool experience, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've got like over 2,000 strips that I've drawn, and when those come into a book, when you get the book back from the printer, you're like, it's all here, it's a body of work. And then the albums are no different, because we start rehearsing and we rehearse and I write the songs, and you know, it's from album start to album end, it's 2 years of work. And so when I get the vinyl back and I'm holding it, you know, it's a finished body of work. So being able to actually listen to the final mastered tracks is, I mean, I've listened to these songs over and over and over, because it's like, I'm like a kid on Christmas, you know, and it's all of that blood, sweat, and tears has finally came to fruition in something. Knowing that, you know, when I get to hold the physical vinyl record, like this is why I work on this. When I get to pull the record out of the sleeve and feel the wax, it's like, this is why I do this, and this is what makes it worth it. The vinyl itself is a poop splatter vinyl. It's really a very look in the mirror of myself with this project of, let's keep it lighthearted and fun, but also let's tell stories of, you know, strife and difficulty and how we can persevere on something. And that's really what the whole project is kind of about. It's definitely a wink to the camera out of a bird squawk. Yeah, you could be able to pick up the Gulls comic book. It can be scored at any comic shop around town. The Gulls vinyl, it's making its way into the comic shops if they're cool with that. And you know, it's a record in a comic shop, so it's sometimes a little breaking the barrier of technically not a comic book, but this does come with a comic book because it's full-on music and comics all at once, so it's pretty cool. Basically, writing a song is like writing an audio comic, if that makes sense. It's like you have to still convey a punchline and a joke and a theme, You don't have visuals to do it, but you can do it through music, and that's what really the crux of the album is.
Saturday, June 8th at the Nerd Out, there is going to be a Gulls release party. It begins at 8 p.m. at 3308 Southeast Belmont Street. And listen, if the comics aren't an incentive enough for you to show up, since I moved here, people have been telling me to go to the Nerd Out, go to the Nerd Out. It's so cool, the food is great, blah, blah, blah. And finally, Mitch was on Tonight with Cassidy with Jack Kent last week, our 7 p.m. entertainment show, and he brought with him some drinks. So if you're not interested in the comics, you need to go and get an Invaders in, because it was delicious. Also happening Saturday, June 8th, but before the Gulls comic release party, so you could go to both if you wanted, is the Frankenstein's Comic Swap. That's from noon to 6 p.m. at the Eagle Lodge, located at 4904 Hawthorne Boulevard. It just costs $1 to get in if you're an adult. Kids and elderly people get in for free, and it's just gonna be a bunch of people there selling their stuff, and so even if you're not looking to buy, there's gonna be a lot of people there who like the same stuff you like probably, so you should go and chat with them. It sounds like a great way to spend a Saturday. Now this happens every 3 months, so if you can't make it this Saturday, check their website to make sure you find out when the next one is. And that's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for letting me talk about some local stuff. I know not everybody who watches this is local to Portland, but if you are, I hope to see you at some of these really cool comic events. And I'll be back next week with a normal video where I read a comic and give you my opinion that you didn't ask for. So you know where to find me. Same place, same-ish time. And until then, this has been KGW's Comic Pick of the Week.